We are ready to call this meeting to order, the meeting of the January Minnetrista Planning Commission. So that's call to order. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any change?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
sorry, this is the mayor here. I think you want to do roll call first.
Oh, pardon me. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Nick, we're going to need to add that to our agenda. Yeah. Okay, I'll start off. When you hear your name, please just say present or I'm here. Chair Laura Sandholm.
I'm here.
If you're not speaking, could you please turn your mic on mute, please? Because we're getting a lot of background noise. Vice Chair Peter Vickery. Peter, are you present?
I am present.
Okay. Gary Pettis.
Present.
Steve Livermore.
Present.
Justin Forbrook.
I am present.
Damian Young. Damian? I thought I heard him earlier. Damian, are you with us?
We can't hear you now, Damien. We can see you.
So he's trying to talk.
Okay, is he, so I don't have my video on, so you can see him though? He's present?
Present.
Okay. John, your audio is now working, yes. John Sturgis?
Present.
Am I saying your last name proper?
Sturgis is correct. Thank you.
Okay. And did I say yes, I said Justin already. Then we have two alternates, and is Gary Vars present?
Present.
And Mike Kirkwood?
Present.
Okay. And then our council liaison is Mayor Lisa Whalen.
Present.
City Planner Nick Olson.
I'm here.
And myself, City Clerk Chris Lindquist. Did I leave anybody out?
Are you asking for public?
No, we do not want public. It's just planning commissioners. Okay.
That's all of them then, right? Okay.
Yep.
So
we're ready to. Now we can do the agenda. Approval of the agenda.
Okay. So was there any changes or discussion on the agenda as written? If none, do I have a motion to pass the agenda as written?
This is Steve. I motion to pass the agenda as written.
Steve makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Gary Pettis.
Okay. We have a second from Gary, and now we need to go through the roll call again.
Question of clarification, please. Chris, can you hold a minute?
Yep.
Nick, can we get a clarification now as to where Gary and I stand as the alternates, as the alternate board members? Did Gary move up one now with John Sturgis coming aboard?
He did not. No. You and Gary remain as the alternate 1 and alternate 2 to the Planning Commission. John is on the Planning Commission.
Okay, so then we would not probably vote in a roll call at this point then.
Correct. I will not say your names for anything else.
Yeah, I think everyone is present tonight.
Right. So, Mike, for that clarification on when you were sworn in, you were sworn in as an alternate, both you and Gary Vars were, with term expiration dates on that, and I believe both of yours expire in 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So then you, at that point, when there's other positions open for the planning commission, you can run to be on instead of being an alternate. Did that make sense?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so with the approval of the agenda, with Livermore motioning and Pettis seconding the motion, roll call, Chair Laura Sandholm,
Aye.
Peter Vickery, Peter,
We can't hear Peter. He looks frozen.
can he shake his head up and down, or?
Why don't you move on to the next one?
Aye.
Okay, Gary, okay, got
just
Peter.
said aye.
Yep, got it. Gary Pettis,
Aye.
Steve Livermore,
Aye.
Damian Young,
Aye.
Justin Forbrook,
Aye.
and John Sturgis.
Aye.
Okay, roll call motion passes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the reappointed planning commissioner, Damian Young. Congratulations, Damian. And
Thank
then
you.
we have a new planning commissioner, John Sturgis. We kind of introduced ourselves before we started. But welcome to the planning commission.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you
Welcome.
have been sworn in previous to this, correct, in person?
Correct.
They were sworn in Thursday morning.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the election, or the, of the chair and the vice chair. And so the first question is, do we have nominations for the chairman of the planning commission?
Well, Madam Chairman, I would like to nominate you to be our chairperson again.
Okay.
I'll second that nomination. This is Steve
And
Livermore.
I would do it. Okay, so we have one nomination. Are
Oh,
there
yes,
any
there's
other
that.
any other nominations? Any other nominations? So if there are no other nominations for chair, then my name is there. I'd like to find nominations for the vice chair too at this time. I'd like to nominate Peter Vickery for vice chair again.
And I'll second that nomination.
Okay, we have a nomination for Peter. Do we have another nomination for vice chair? Any other nominations? So we have a nomination for myself for chair and Peter for vice chair. Chris, now what do we just vote on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna combine it into one roll call. So
Yes.
if
That's what I
people
would like
have a problem with one, then they can say so. But so the motion is Vickery, seconded by Livermore, for Sandholm to be the chair, and motion by Sandholm, seconded by Livermore, for Vickery to be the vice chair. And this is only for a one-year term. And I will start off the roll call with Laura Sandholm,
And I say aye.
Peter Vickery,
Aye.
Peter, okay, Gary Pettis,
Aye.
Steve Livermore,
Aye.
Damian Young,
Aye.
Justin Forbrook,
Aye.
and John Sturgis.
Aye.
Okay. That motion carries, or passes, excuse me.
This is Mayor Whalen. Just for clarification, it is not a motion. Those were nominations, so you don't even need a second. I'm sorry to butt in here, but basically, nominations were made and the roll was taken, and Vice Chair Laura Sandholm won and Peter Vickery won. Just for legalities here. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you. We only do it once a
Thank-
year, so
Yeah, I know.
you want to do it
All right.
right. Okay, thank you. So that means I'm leading the rest of the meeting, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 26th of last year. Did anybody see anything that they wanted to change in the minutes or didn't like in the minutes, want to discuss? If no items, do we have a motion to pass these meetings as, or these minutes as written?
I so move.
That's Gary.
Who is Gary
That was
Pettis?
Gary. Yes.
Thank you.
And do we have a second?
This is Peter. I make a second.
Thank you.
Okay. So we need to go through the roll call.
Yep. Well, first you need to find out if there's any discussion.
Okay, more discussion. Any discussion?
Okay. Sounds like none. So roll call.
None.
Chair Laura Sandholm,
Aye.
Peter Vickery,
Aye.
Gary Pettis,
Aye.
Steve Livermore,
Aye.
Damian Young,
Aye.
Justin Forbrook,
Aye.
and John Sturgis.
Aye.
Okay, that was a roll call motion that passed.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from November 23rd of last year. Was there any changes? Anything that you didn't think was the way you thought it had gone? Okay, the only thing I had was just a typo thing on page 3.
Okay.
The first bullet line had a and in between the name of the first name and the last name. But otherwise I was fine with minutes.
Okay, so there's the first item you said?
It's the first bullet item on page 3.
Okay.
It's nitpicky.
I'll look at that and take care of it. Yeah, we don't need to amend the minutes for that. I can just correct it.
So any more discussion? Otherwise, do I hear a motion?
This is Peter Vickery. I make a motion to approve the November meeting minutes as stated with the indicated.
This is Damian Young.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you,
I'm sorry,
Damian.
who was that? Damian?
Damian.
Okay. Ready for the roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Laura Sandholm,
Aye.
Peter Vickery,
Aye.
Gary Pettis,
Aye.
Steve Livermore,
Aye.
Damian Young,
Aye.
Justin Forbrook,
Aye.
John Sturgis.
Aye.
Okay, that roll call motion passes.
Okay,
7-0.
the next, thank you. So both of the minutes have passed. Okay, on to the public hearings. The first one is the interim use permit amendment for the Minnetonka orchards. We had a public hearing that's still open on that. Was there any updates to the information that Nick wanted to update since we met in November?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I guess I'll just give a brief rundown of some of the new information we have received since our last meeting. And then I think maybe we can give the applicants an opportunity to chime in on the information they have submitted, and then we'll move to open that public or continue that public hearing, take all the comments, and then move from there. But to touch on what has been submitted, hopefully you were all able to visit the city's website. That's where most of the updated information was placed. There was a video of the current owners, the shoppers, doing some kind of Q&A to help explain what's going on with regards to the orchards, the winery, and so on. It was, about 18 and a half minutes long, so that was not, that'll not be played tonight, just due to time constraints, so hopefully everyone was able to listen to that. There was also a letter submitted Friday from the buyers, Frank and Esther, kind of outlining their input on the application here. And then just this afternoon, we also received another letter from the current owners, the shoppers. Hopefully that was late notice. Hopefully you were able to get that. And then there was also a letter from some of the nearby residents with some concerns regarding the existing operation of the winery and the more so the orchard. So that's what's some of the new information that has transpired. I didn't update too much in terms of the staff report, kept it open for the discussion that we were having at the November meeting and to carry forward to this meeting. And like I said, I think maybe we give the applicants a chance to kind of present themselves with some, whatever they have to add to what I've stated here, and then we'll go ahead to continue that public hearing.
Okay. So the applicants, did they want to speak, and they need to give their name and their address?
Hi, this is Frank Weigel and Esther Weigel, Nazareth. We're at 4496 North Shore Drive in Mound, Minnesota here. We're really excited about the opportunity to carry on the torch for the shoppers. We fell in love with the place years ago, and we look forward to raising our kids on an orchard farm environment, and are very I think for us, we want to be good neighbors. We want to understand and hear the neighbors' concerns and try to find solutions. We understand living near when you have events like this, that we want to be fair and make sure that it's not a nuisance. So we request that we extend this IUP to give us an opportunity to show who we are and how we'll handle this. But I think you'll find that we'll do a great job. Esther, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we're new at this. We never had a farm. We had the opportunity to sit. We personally watched the video that Lowell and Phyllis put up. But in addition to that, we were able to meet with them in their home, and tears were shed and stories were told, and we really love this land, and they obviously really love the land, and we just want to be, we just want to love it like they did, and we want to be good neighbors. I mean, and I believe they truly believe they were, and learning of any of these complaints, and if you listen to their video, they really didn't know. They were learning it firsthand. No one really came to them with that, and I think if they had, maybe things would be different. And for us, for sure, if someone comes to us, and not just us anymore, anyone, like we want to do it right. And I wouldn't say we would want to do it better, because I believe they really did their best. But I think that just with everyone having an open forum and a close community, but most importantly, we are not trying to change, maybe update where Lowell says, this is, if I kept it, this is what I would do. And we just really love the charm as it is, and we're not going to do anything drastically different. We just want it to live on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yes.
This is Steve Grotting. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to call for Lowell one more time to see they're supposedly connected. I'll say my piece here. Honorable Commissioners, if that's okay. Nick, do you want me to go?
Yes, please do it.
Go
Please
ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Name and
Yeah.
address, please.
Yeah, this is Lowell. I can hear you fine.
Okay. Steve Grotting, 6064 Drake Drive. I live up by Marvin in Independence. Honorable Commissioners, I represent Lowell and Phyllis Shopper in the sale of their property at 6530 and 6480 County Road 26, Minnetrista. I am the owner and broker of Windsong Realty. We specialize in property out this way. As such, I have spent more than a year researching and handling the sale. I am available to answer any specific questions and appreciate the chance to comment. The sellers and the buyers ask that the Planning Commission continue the IUP through the sale, allowing weddings in the orchard. To that end, both the Shoppers and the Weigels, sellers and buyers, are happy to improve the acoustic management of the venue, including 5 significant upgrades. These upgrades have been designed by Acoustic Surfaces, Inc. in Chaska, Minnesota. Number 1, installation of aerial acoustic sailcloth ceiling banners, the length of the room designed to markedly reduce sound transference. Number 2, absorptive sound barrier quilted curtain panels strategically located along the room's perimeter. 3, high-grade sound encapsulating baffle line stage walls to capture low-frequency sound. And 4, a house sound system designed to deliver sound locally as opposed to standard public address. Please continue the IUP through the sale. The buyers will be good neighbors and the new keepers of the Minnetonka Orchard's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, Lowell. Are you there?
I'm here, yes. You want me to comment on?
If you wish to comment, yes.
Yeah, this is Lowell Shopper, 6530 County Road 26. And Phyllis is not here this evening, so my comments basically are I have a lot of confidence in the buyers, both Frank and Esther, that they're going to run a nice operation. It'll be, we're going to make some, they're going to make some modifications. We know that sound is an issue, and we're all determined to correct it. And I think they're going to be very good neighbors. That's really all the comments I have this time.
Okay, thank you. So everybody, do we want to continue the public hearing and go down to people who want to speak and then have the discussion afterwards after we hear all the comments? We can bring the applicants back to answer any other questions you might have as we discuss this. Will that work for everybody?
I'm good with
Yes,
that.
I think that. Yeah, this is Lowell Shopper.
And then,
that's-
okay, and then
as long as
when, pardon me?
I was going to say,
Gary?
as long as we get to ask questions of the applicants at some time.
Yes. I think we want to hear everybody in the public hearing, and then we'll go back and have the discussion and ask more questions. Does that sound good?
Okay. That's fine with me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so when we go through these, some of the people have already spoken, so I don't know if we want the full repeat, but you can, you know, say things again or add to what you had before. Nick, do you have a list of people that we could go down so we don't miss anybody?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a list of all the attendees here, most of which I have identified. A couple called in a little bit later and I don't have them identified. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run down the list of all the people who aren't a staff member, a council member, or a planning commissioner. And if you wish to speak, you know, we'll give you, 3 or so minutes to say your comments. If you wish to not speak, if you could just acknowledge that, it would be appreciated so we can move on. So I'm just going to start at the top of the list here. And first up is Bruce Olson.
Did we lose you, Nick?
I'm still here. I'm not getting
Bruce
anything
isn't
from Bruce,
answering.
so I'm going to step on. Kathy Zanstra.
Yes, I'm here. I've pretty much said everything that I felt. We live directly across the street from the driveway to the house for the orchard, and it's such a great family place to be. It's good for raising kids, having a place to go to every year for their apple orchard and their Halloween and all their events that they have. And my spouse and I are not bothered by the music. We do hear it, but we hear more things than just that music 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, speeding cars. And mainly it's the speeding cars, and it's not from the apple orchard. So I can put up with someone having music because it's only Fridays and Saturdays in a short period in the summertime compared to other terrible things that could happen in the neighborhood. It just helps keep this community alive, and it's something that I don't believe that Minnetrista can afford to lose.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next up is Chris Conroy.
That's not on.
Chris Conroy, do you wish to speak?
Excuse me,
Nick?
this is Steve Anderson at 4100 Enchanted Lane. I think we're on a different agenda item for the names that you're calling.
Yeah, I've just got everyone's list here. So, yep, we'll get to that item next on the agenda.
Okay. So Bruce Olson and Chris are a part of the same.
Gotcha. So next up will be Harold and Lori Catola.
Nick, can I interrupt for a moment, please?
Yeah.
Could Kathy, I'm sorry, I missed Kathy's last name and her address.
Well, most people do miss my last name. It's Zanstra.
How do you spell that, please?
Z like zebra, A-N-S-T-R-A.
Okay, and your address, please, I'm sorry.
6625 County Road 26.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Nick.
That's fine. So yeah, Harold and Lori Catola are up.
This is Lori Catola. I live at 6724 Fox Ridge Circle. My husband Harold is here as well. We submitted letters to the Planning Commission both for the November meeting and for this meeting, along with some of our other neighbors. And so I won't reiterate what's in those letters. I hope the commissioners have read those letters, and I hope we'll hear some discussion about those specific points, because we do think there are a number of issues with the existing permit that should be addressed, not only with respect to the operations themselves, but also with the language in the permit. But I would like to address a couple of things that aren't in the letters. First of all, for the people that have commented both at the November meeting and this meeting about the noise not impacting them, I can appreciate perhaps that the variation in where you live with respect to proximity to the orchard may make a difference. I can say that where we are, the noise is a very serious problem. I can also say that we have been making complaints for many years to the police, to others, and to say that this is a surprise to hear that people have an issue with the noise is just, that's, unfortunately, I just have to say that's disingenuous, because there have been issues with the noise for many years, which I think the owners are well aware of. We've also heard over the years about other improvements to be made, similar to what's being proposed now. In the past, the orchard has said that they would put up various sound barriers, different kinds of mats to absorb the sound, and none of those really made a difference. So I'm a little concerned now that we're saying we're gonna do something else to construct a sound barrier. And I am very skeptical, I have to say, because those kinds of efforts have been made in the past with really no result. The other thing I'd like to say is that, you know, Lowell and Phyllis have made a lot of friends in the area over the years, and that's great. I think they're probably very great people. I think the buyers are probably great people too, but that's not really what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is whether or not this business model is appropriate for this environment. And I would say that at this point, that model is no longer appropriate. Initially, when the orchard was just an orchard and they were having people come in and pick apples, and they were selling apples, and they were doing family activities and family music during the day, that was all very great. But over time, this orchard has become an event center. There are events multiple times a week beyond the number that is permitted under the terms of the permit. And that is what is becoming a problem, both with respect to the noise and the traffic and the congestion. This is not the place for an event center. The Minnetrista's own comprehensive plan states that all those types of activities are supposed to take place within the city and along the Highway 7 corridor. So, you know, unfortunately, I just don't think that this business model is appropriate for the environment, and it's not aligned with your comprehensive plan. You have to be able to recognize that. A very similar concept was presented to the Independence Planning Commission back in late 2015 for a similar event center to be held in a barn on County Road 6, just at the opposite end of the marsh from where the existing orchards are now. And that planning commission made the decision that that particular type of activity was not appropriate for their comprehensive plan and was not appropriate for the environment. And so I really think that this planning commission can't help but come to the same conclusion, because this is a very rural, quiet, peaceful area, which is not appropriate for this kind of business model. So that's the extent of what I have to say. I look forward to hearing to the other comments and from the planning commissioners about how to address some of those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Judy and Les Heinen. You care to speak?
We have no opinion on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Next is Kent Lee and Zina Somava.
Yeah, hi, good evening. As we stated before back in, I guess, November, it's been a pleasure, you know, being friends with Lowell and Phyllis. The issue issue as you talk about continuing the IUP to new owners is primarily, first of all, the noise, and the noise is first of all connected with the fact that the events are held inside of a tent, despite any attenuation, until the event center is I think is in something that is a permanent building, similar to what they would have up at Gale Farms. We had experience with our own daughter who had a wedding up there, similar kind of rural area, wedding held in wedding event, music held inside of a of a permanent converted barn. That seems to be something that would truly address the long-term noise problems, and I think this is in fact the appropriate time to tighten up, to revise the existing IUP to reflect this and hold the new owners accountable for that. I think as a solution that would work best for the surrounding community here. So that's what we'd like to say here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Next up is Kurt Ostrowski.
No comment on this issue.
All right. Next up is Michael Meek.
Oh, okay, sorry. No comment on this. I'm here for the next agenda item. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Michelle Schaffer. Michelle Schaffer, care to speak at all? All right. Pam Anderson. Okay.
We're here.
Steve.
This is
okay.
Steve. We're here for the next agenda item.
Sounds good.
Bancor.
Next up is Slava Skyluk.
No comment.
Right. And then I think last up is Susan Stravicki.
No comment either. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There was a few people that called in late that I was unable to identify. If you wish to speak on the item regarding the IUP for the Minnetonka orchards, if you could just please, maybe one at a time, let me know.
Nick?
Anybody else?
Nick? Nick?
Chair.
This is Gary Pettis.
Yep.
I'd like to speak on behalf of my wife on some notes that she's given me. She was unable to be here tonight. And this is what she wrote. She said that what we noticed, all right, at the last meeting, everybody who mentioned that they could hear the music and singing, and it was all but one, that it was loud and annoying and disruptive to everyone else. This takes place 2 to 3 nights every weekend from May to mid-November, depending upon the weather. All who found it loud and disruptive said they complained to management on more than one occasion, including herself, resulting with no permanent changes taking place. The CUP stated that the noise level should not exceed 60 dB at the property line. So looking into this, I found that dB is considered to be the same as a normal voice conversation. And this would be heard between 1 and 4 meters from where it originated. which is roughly 12 to 13 feet past the property line. Our screen porch is roughly 500 feet from the fence that is stated as being the Orchard Winery property line, which means it is roughly 38 and 1/2 times farther away from the property line than this noise level should travel at 60 dB. This is a problem and a major irritant that needs to be solved. This causes us to turn up our television to unusually high volume, having to raise our voices to be able to hear and communicate to each other or to go inside. I'm guessing that some of the others who are suffering from this problem are at a greater distance from the property line than we are. Between 10:30 and 11 o'clock p.m., you have 50 to 100 cars leaving the parking lot in a hurry in many different states of sobriety with no parking attendant or police officers on site to monitor this situation. Along with this, during the apple orchard prime season, the overflow parking lot runs almost all the way from the east to County Road 110 on both sides of County Road 26, which is in violation of the CUP and dangerous and a consistent problem during the day and the early evening. During this time, it is almost impossible to get out of your driveway. There is a constant stream of cars trying to park or trying to leave. People with kids and dogs walking in and alongside the road. It is a constant roadblock. No, just some suggestions, and her suggestion is that if there is an upgrading of the sound and abatement system to be completed, that it be certified that it meets the requirements of the CUP and is submitted and approved by the city of Minnetrista before transferring of the new owners. Or if it is transferred with the stipulation that it cannot be open for business until this takes place. And that there should be some way for the sound to be monitored and documented on an ongoing basis so that if a complaint is registered, these monitors can be checked. Now, there's one other comment to when she was looking at the CUP. She says that it shows that it allows concerts. If concerts were to ever take place here, we would be opening a whole other can of worms. We have seen what can happen when we don't button things up correctly. The city generally ends up in some kind of a lawsuit, which is a waste of time, money, and causes a lot of heartache. That's all that I'll read that she wrote here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, did you give your address, Gary, since you're speaking for your wife?
Yeah, the address is 6200 County Road 26.
Okay, thank you.
Her name is Sue. Same last name.
Did everyone get a chance that wishes to speak to speak?
This is Gary Vars. Could I make a comment? I think that we need to have a definition of what's going on here, in the sense of what are we trying to approve or not approve. We've got an IUP and a CUP, and they're being used interchangeably. And as I understand it, they're quite different. One passes with the ownership without the council or having to do anything about it, and the other one needs approval. And the one that needs approval has only got 2.5 years left on it before it has to be renewed. So Nick, if you could clarify that, I think that would help everybody, because I'm sitting here with good notes and I'm confused as hell.
Sure. So tonight we are focusing on the IUP. The IUP covers the agricultural entertainment activities. That is the orchard, that is the weddings, things of the like. The conditional use permit covers the farm winery. So that is a separate operation. Gary's correct. A conditional use permit runs with the land so long as the owners of the property meet the conditions as outlined in the permit. An IUP is a little bit different. An IUP, one is tied to a certain property owner, and it's also tied to a certain duration. Gary's right that the IUP has 2.5 years left on it before it has to be reviewed, and the applicants would have to make a request to extend that beyond that amount of time. And the reason for the meeting this evening is to include the names of Frank and Esther on the IUP for that remaining 2.5 years, so that they can operate as the shoppers have operated. So that's what we're reviewing, is essentially the transfer of ownership from Lowell and Phyllis to Esther and Frank for the remaining 2.5 years that are on the permit.
Okay. If somebody isn't speaking, could they put their microphone on mute, because we're getting a lot of background noise and it's hard to follow what's going on.
I don't know how to do that.
This
There
is
should
Gary
be a
Vars.
mic at the bottom.
Laura, Gary Vars
Yes.
again. Can I make another comment after Nick? As I understand we have here, and I think Nick just confirmed that, is we are looking at having the new owner have an extension of the permit for 2 seasons, basically, maybe 2.5 seasons, during which time we would certainly get a lot of information about how they operate and what the improvements do and so forth. And then at that point in time, it would be up for renewal again. It would have to come before the council and the planning commission, I believe.
Yes.
So just so we know what the time frame is, we're not sitting here looking at it forever.
Right. This is not a CUP.
No. So
Okay, okay. Before we start discussing more, I'd like to see if anybody else wanted to speak on this, and then I could close the public hearing. Did everybody have their say that's on in the meeting tonight?
This is Craig Shopper. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Craig Shopper. I'm at 120 Fairway Ridge Court in Minnetrista, 55364. And I am the son of Lowell and Phyllis Shopper, the seller. And my wife and I operated the orchard from 2010 to 2014. And we moved back to Minnesota from Washington State to operate the orchard. We took over management here at the orchard. And we ran the weddings and modified the conditional use, or the IUP, for the farm in 2000 and I believe 2012, and I believe that's the current IUP. And maybe David, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
So I believe my name and my wife's name is on the IUP currently, as well as Lowell and Phyllis Shopper. And when we made modifications to the IUP in 2013, that process included modifications to the allowable uses for farm wineries. And it also included adding our names to the IUP to continue operating the orchard. And I believe, and I haven't studied the current or that IUP, but I believe it was 2 events per week, decibel limits at property lines based on the Minnesota pollution control documents that are adopted per law by the state of Minnesota. And my wife and I were very diligent about adhering to those standards, and we measured decibel limits before, during, after, and we're on site 99% of the time during any event. We did limit events to two events per week. And in 2014, when we went and took on other jobs and projects, there was a management team that came in and worked for my mother and father. And I believe that, I mean, obviously, I know Gary spoke in 2013, and I hear the issues, and certainly the shoppers are aware of the noise issue and obviously traffic issues. That's not anything new. Certainly, I would believe that anybody that's operating the business and following the IUP as it's laid out in 2013 per, state law should have the right to be able to do that. I certainly agree with the other person, I can't remember her name, about, documenting decibels at property lines so that there is a log. I mean, that's reasonable. We did that when Michelle and I are running it, and there was a few complaints back then, but we addressed them quickly. There was, a sound barrier that was built based on engineering specifications for sound mitigation, and that has, deteriorated over the years. I would note that the last probably year and a half, that there hasn't been any major events here at the Orchard. So I'm assuming the complaints that people are speaking of are prior to the 2019 season, maybe that 2018. So, I mean, I think it's reasonable, even what Gary Vars was saying, that, we're talking, oh, David, what's the renewal period on the IUP? Every 5 years, or?
It's changed over, commissioners and members of the commission. It's changed over the years. There's been different lengths at different times. I think we've gone as high as 5 years. There's currently two years left on the existing IUP.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable, what everybody, all objections, from Gary and Sue and, Gary Vars, point of view, that we're talking about 2.5 years for an IUP. We're talking about a new owner coming in. We're talking about, some things that happened here at the Orchard that perhaps got out of control, and it's not it's not a shopper running that. So we apologize for that, but we think that, the new buyers are sincere, and I think the two major issues, which is traffic and sound, I think that can all be mitigated legally, lawfully, and I think that's a good way to proceed.
So those issues can be really
addressed over time, obviously.
I think
okay.
Those issues.
So that's kind of my 2 cents. I'm certainly here to answer any questions, just as somebody that was here, boots on the ground, and it'd be nice to see, some new owners come in and operate the property the way my parents envisioned it for the last, 45 years. So thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on this?
Madam Chair, this is the mayor one more time, real quick. David, or maybe shoppers, you could answer this question. How long has the apple orchard been in operation? I know I've lived here for 35 years and going on 36 actually. And I know it's been there a long time. Just the apple orchard, very, very quick, in 2 seconds, can somebody tell me how long it's been in operation?
The 1976.
Thank you. So quite a while. Yeah. All right. And then another issue I just want to point out to the Planning Commission here, the wedding venue, that actually came before the council prior to 2012. I believe I was on the council at the time. I'm going to guess it was somewhere around 2008 maybe. But I do remember prior to 2012 that the council had discussed this. So if somebody else can give me a date on that, could you please, real quick?
Yeah, that's about accurate as far as really getting involved in the weddings. When my wife and I.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I needed. I just wanted and just approximate date, just to give the Planning Commission an idea how long it's been operating. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
This is
Thank you.
Lowell. Actually, the first wedding was held in 2005.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So,
One
I
wedding
knew it was
that
a
year,
while back. I just couldn't remember. All right.
and then
Thank
we
you.
didn't have any weddings in 2006, and we had several weddings in 2007.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to speak? Because this is the public hearing is open. Otherwise, I'm going to get ready to close the public hearing and we'll have a discussion between the Planning Commission and they can ask questions of either the planners or of the applicants or anybody else for that matter. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now, do the planning commissioners have questions? Does anybody have any questions of anybody?
I have a question. I have a question or two of the owners. This is Gary Pettis.
Yep.
My first question is, do the owners plan on being hands-on owners, or do they plan on having other people run the facility for them?
Fortunately, Lowell has decided or agreed to stay on to help learn the land. And yes, we will definitely be hands-on. We won't be living on the property. Our main property is down the road. I think it's like 6 minutes away, 7 minutes away. And we want to be a family-ran company. I mean, we're not changing anybody that he loves that wants to be there. And if anything, there will just be some great additions. But yeah,
so
we definitely intend to be involved. Yeah.
I'm sorry. My question was, so if I was to call with a complaint, I would either get your husband or you. I would not get somebody else.
100%. Yes.
Okay. I have one other question for you. We've again, as somebody else mentioned, through the years there have been a lot of commitments made to make improvements. And I don't know you, and I'm not trying to say anything disparaging about you or your husband because I don't know you. But in the past, these things haven't happened. So would you be willing to agree, if this was forward, that all of the work would be done and that a certificate would be issued certifying that it meets the standards of the CUP, or that you wouldn't open for business if it did not?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. Because I think we'd have to do a little more research on that, on what that takes to get it certified. This would be kind of new for us. I've dealt with a lot of SUPs, CUPs over the years, and believe me, the stuff that I deal with is far, I deal with waste and recycling, landfills, composting, and waste energy power plants. And so I think my success personally has been on, making my neighbors happy to be successful.
Man of your word.
And man of my word. And so, we want this to be successful and also, be respectful to neighbors. And, today we're talking about, possibility of making a permanent possible structure and, make it even better. So, we hope that you guys, give us a chance and then let us see what we could do. And I think we're going to keep, we're going to improve on it as we go.
All right, then my follow-up question to that is, why should I, as a city, give you a permit to do something that you're not willing to have certified that you're meeting all of the requirements of it?
We would absolutely meet requirements. I think did we misunderstand the question?
I think we misunderstand that we get to certify something else, but the requirements, yes. I mean, we'll of course meet the requirements of the permit.
If I may, Madam Chair, and members of the commission, and maybe a question for Gary is, what does certification mean? I mean, I think that's the stumbling block here. None of this stuff requires a building permit from the city, so there's no building code or permit that our building official could review. I think what I'm hearing is they're willing to put these things in, but I think what needs to be figured out is, what does a certification mean? And I frankly, is there one?
Well, let's start with the first one. That's the noise level, and we'll just assume for this conversation that the 60 dB is what the state statute, or what the statute that's written in the CUP is. Now, I would you be willing to certify that the sound abatement that you're putting in has reduced it to that level at the property line? Yes. I think that's very easy. I think that's attainable.
But Gary, this is
Steve
Livermore. Can I interject for a minute? Gary, I don't know how you can certify something with a noise that you don't have a source for, right? I mean, if you want to give some sort of base source inside their building and then measure at the property line, certainly. But I think that's outside the scope of what we're here today to talk about, right? I mean, they obviously have to abide by the IUP, but to ask them to certify when they don't really know what the requirements are of that certification.
Well, aren't you just asking that it be the 60 dB at the property line, and you can do that with a noise meter, which they've used previously.
Right, but Madam Chair, to certify it, you have to have a source at the tent or wherever the thing is, and then measure it at the property line. And I don't see how they can certify that that's going to happen when they don't have the source. I mean, yeah, they can say that they're going to do it during each event, but to have somebody come out and say, well, right now it's at 60 dB, I think it's difficult to meet that requirement.
Well, I don't think so. I think that if all of the abatement is completed, that event could be held, and we could determine what the noise level is.
But you just said they couldn't even open until they had the certification.
That doesn't mean that a test couldn't be run. I'm saying
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you, Gary. But what I'm saying is you're asking for a lot of things that we're not going to solve tonight. And really, what's in front of the Planning Commission is for us to review this and not add additional requirements. If you're not comfortable with the requirements in front of us, I think we move forward then, right?
Well, no, because we have a lot of people who have noise irritant here that hasn't been corrected. And we go back to 2014. Well, since 2014, the problem has increased dramatically, according to those who have spoken. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Can I ask a question?
I think that people are more than willing to live in harmony, but you need to prove to us that you're in harmony, because you've been out of harmony for the last 6 to 7 years.
Madam Chair, may I speak up here just a second? First
Please.
of all, thank you. This is the mayor again. Thank you. I think the city can put requirements on the property owners, but when you think about decibel levels, they could have it cranked way up, or they could have it cranked way down. I think the issue here is whether or not you want to consider asking them to put in more noise baffling or noise barriers. And then after those have been installed, you have a requirement of a certain decibel at the edges or at the property line. And if neighbors feel that it exceeds that amount, then we have to measure those and then tell them that they have to turn it down. But decibels are really a matter of volume. Without any noise reduction baffles or anything, they could actually probably make it work. But what, so you know what I'm saying? A certification isn't going to really prove anything. That's just my 2 cents.
Chair, I've got a question to the people that submitted.
At some point,
I'm not sure who submitted the acoustic banner information, but whoever wants to speak to that, did you get feedback from that company that improvement would help with the noise levels at the border of the property?
Yes, this is Steve Grotting, yes, they designed that, and I think the Weigels and the Shoppers are open to revisions and also anybody wanting to add to that or look at it. So they're well on their way. This is a much more sophisticated answer than what you've seen in the past, and I think Craig so eloquently put it that there was a period of time where management wasn't its best, and it didn't have to do with the Shoppers. And so now you have the Weigels coming in at, frankly, a much higher level. They're willing to spend the money to have it done right. And this group that I found down in Chaska, appropriately, their website is stopnoise.com. And I just went and found a solution, and these guys are it.
So did they give you an idea of what that noise reduction would look like? I mean, did they give you a reduction in decibels of certain level, or what was their design principles, I should say?
Yeah, it was a preliminary design, and they can absolutely get some engineering specs after they do a full site plan. And I think the Weigels and Shoppers are willing to go down that road. So they want to satisfy both the city and the neighbors that they're headed in the right direction.
So if they didn't come on site, I mean, is this just their generic design to reduce noise within a structure that's having loud music? What did you ask them to do for you?
I gave them pictures of the venue, and from that he developed the 3-step plan of ceiling, wall, and stage baffling. And then the third item is to discourage a music subcontractor to come out there with their own equipment, but rather be have to plug into the house sound system. And that has yet to be designed, but I can speak firsthand. At my church we did it, and it completely changed the delivery of music and voice.
Yeah, you certainly would get more consistent delivery of the sound then, right? And not have to worry about the variances between equipment, between acts, or between groups. So that makes sense.
This is John Sturgis from the Planning Commission. The Weigels, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. It's my understanding, as we've been stating, that at the property line, the noise needs to be less than 60 decibels. With that said, it's pretty easy to get someone out there to play at a level of what it would be in a tent, because you cannot have, according to the IUP, you cannot have outside speakers. So obviously we're talking about in the tent if you don't have a permanent structure. Do you feel confident as the new owners to come in and that you'll be able to keep the decibels less than 60. And was stated on the decibel range, that's like someone talking. And coming from the hotel business as I have, inside your tent, it will be so much louder than that. Do you have the confidence coming in that you will be able to adhere to that IUP and keep it less than 60?
Yeah, yes. I mean, we are going to do whatever it takes, and if we can't meet the standards in the IUP, we'll just not have the events until we are able to figure it out.
Yeah, I
So my
mean,
next
our
question.
intentions to be in harmony, and our intentions are so good. I mean, we're talking about something we've never done before, but we only want to do what's right. So yes, we are going to do our very best to do that. And if that can't happen in a tent, then we'll do what we have to do to, it's such a beautiful place. We love to hold weddings. It's not our primary income, but yes, we want to respect our neighbors and literally live in harmony. We are not trying to go outside of the 60 decibels on that line. We want to respect that.
I know 60 decibels are tough just because, a car going by on the road is more than 60 decibels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So changes might have to be made.
You pull out your driveway.
Now you stated also that and you just restated it, that this income is not what you're relying on solely, but you also stated that you would be the person or the individuals that people would come to. Coming from the hotel business as I did, running weddings and booking weddings and everything that goes around weddings is a very tough business. It is not an easy business, and it's not really a part-time business. So one of my questions, and with what came up today, obviously, is sound, frequency, traffic, and that enforcing compliance. So do you have that confidence that you'll be able to run these weddings well? Because what has been brought up, what the Catolas brought up and others have brought up is, people driving all over, when they're leaving, and it's very busy, and it could be unsafe, people drinking, obviously the noise level. Do you have the confidence that you all can do that? And if not, is it something that the Lowells could potentially, the Shappers could potentially come in and be the management company for this, that we could maybe make a change, and possibly in the IUP, we would state that they would manage it for a period of time, because you have stated, once again, you're learning this, you're just learning this. So is that something that is up that you would agree to?
We would love Lowell around in any capacity he'd like to be around. For myself, I'm an interior designer. I have my own company. I have multiple locations, one of which I'm hoping to bring into Excelsior and Wayzata, in addition to that cute little gift shop. So yeah, I plan on being hands-on, and I've planned multiple events that I can show, proof of it. It really would be a labor of love for me. And my husband, he. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm so currently, I'm working remote like most of the world, but I'm on my way to transition to kind of retirement, and this is kind of my next, I guess, phase of our lives. So it's this is going to be it for and as far as my perspective, this is kind of all I have going on, really. And maybe sit on some boards.
I mean, really worked hard to get here to enjoy this house.
Yeah, besides maybe some boards of some companies, but that's not a lot of work. So this is our
labor of love.
Yeah, labor of love, and where we have
we have 5 kids and
2-year-old twins we want to have running around out there, and
yeah.
And Commissioner, just so I can piggyback on that, this is David, Community Development Director. Just to be clear, Lowell and the Shopper, Phyllis Shopper, their name is remaining on the current IUP. We're not taking them off as proposed and as asked by the applicants. We're simply adding the new owners to the permit for that very reason, that Lowell is willing to stick around to, at his best to the capacity that they can to show them the ropes and help them get the business going. So just want to make that point clear, that their names would still be on the IUP for the remaining 2 years. And just another point, just to kind of summarize, I think what everybody's saying here and what I'm hearing the new owners say is, in terms of decibels and the improvements, what I'm hearing is as proposed, they are willing to do those things. The point of issue that I brought up earlier was the certification and what exactly does that mean. And I think we can just basically simplify it. If they're willing to hire this company, get to the design, have it installed, we as city staff can certainly go out there and look at it, get the plans and have that and say, yes, it's been installed, it's been submitted, and go ahead. If they're willing to do that condition, I think just to try to simplify things and move things on, if they're willing to do that, that's something we could look at. But like I said, where I think we get hung up on things is the certification of it, because that becomes difficult. No one knows what exactly that really means. But I think that's something that could easily be accommodated in this situation.
I appreciate that, David. It's not, to me, I don't want to get caught up in the word certification. To me, it's that they can follow the IUP, that they have the confidence. The goal here is obviously that the family that I hear that strongly disagrees with this are the Catolas. The group that wants to do this are the Weigels, and everybody in between. The goal is, how do we make all groups happy, right? And that's all I'm asking for on this. And it is a little different from the Lowell, the Shappers being there, compared to, are they going to be responsible to manage it? And that would be my concern is that is there potential for a short-term management agreement? And I apologize if I'm going beyond the IUP, but I'm just trying to come up with a way that makes all groups happy and that this is managed professionally.
Hey, John.
Most certainly. I think the Shoppers are actually, in Lowell, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but you're actually going to remain living on site for a year, is it, at least?
Well, at least a year, maybe 2 years. That depends on the buyer. And but I wanted to make a few comments on the noise issue and managing the noise issue, which I think is an important job. And what we did was we had dB meters. We placed one dB meter. It was a recording dB meter. We could look at the end of the evening or the next day and see how loud the music was according to the decibels. Now, weather does have a big impact on how far sound travels and what direction it travels. So that's another factor. But the main management tool that you have is where that amplifier plugs into the circuit. And we've gone over and unplugged it, because we know what the decibel meter is saying, how loud that music is. Now, it might be, maybe the people that are listening to this music, at a mile away or half a mile away or 500 yards away or whatever, that might be their comfort level. So we have to find out, okay, how many DMEs can the neighbors take or listen to or want to listen to, and then we need to get that feedback from them. And with a dB meter recording the music, we can adjust it.
But what I'd add to that, though, what I think is extremely important here is, for the Weigels, is that the IUP states at any of the lines, right? All right, that the decibel level is at I forget if it's at 60 or below 60. So 60. regardless, in my opinion, of what others outside of that think, it has to be at that number, and that they can be confident that they're able to manage that. That's what I'm asking.
So the comment I wanted to make was to the Weigels, and whether this is a suggestion or something we can adopt with the approval, is, I think what's needed is some kind of survey, and this is a business, and some type of survey for the neighbors, because again, to me, it sounds like if we were to approve this, within 2 years, they had to come right back to us, but we need to see some type of data some type of feedback from the neighbors to see, you know, are the things that they've done or willing to do going to help them meet that decibel, that noise, and make the neighbors agreeable to this. So I would say that some type of survey, you know, 2 to 3, you know, times a year, so we can see feedback on the next renewal of this, you know, would be a good thing.
Well, I agree. You know, if the neighbors want 40 decibels, we can produce 40 decibels. But you know, the state maximum is 60.
Well, I don't know that.
And so that's been our target in the past, but we've not really heard a lot of feedback from the neighbors.
That's what I'm saying. A survey would get you the feedback from the neighbors that are not in agreement with this this, you know, type of business. So
yeah. Right.
I have a question. Can I ask a question of David?
Wait a minute. Who's speaking?
This is Craig Shopper. Can I ask David Abel a question? David,
Sure.
is the state of Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, the adopted law in the state of Minnesota, is it 60 decibels at the perimeter?
Correct.
Okay. I know it can be met because I did it. So I'm super confident. It's not complicated, but I know the previous engineering that we had for sound barrier did measure the distance to the property line and project decibel levels based on at point readings. So yeah, it's pretty easy to monitor that and maintain the state of Minnesota requirement.
I have a question for the gentleman who found the abatement company. What is the projected time frame to complete a project like this? Is it a 30-day, a 90-day, a 6 month, a year?
I don't have an answer for you there. They're doing the design. You know, it would be the work would have to be contracted either through them or separately. Currently, the tent isn't up; it's packed away. So as soon as that comes up, they designed portable panels for the walls, and then the sailcloth that is for the ceiling. I think it's something. It's a soft construction, so I don't think we're talking about anything major. But I think, you know, David, I think you pointed out the IUP was designed quite well. The limit is 60 at the perimeter, and Lisa, I think you said it very well. You know, that you can control that with your volume knob at this point. So I think that what the Weigels are trying to communicate is they are willing to get any kind of consultant or manager or you know, they are very creative. They are just a joy to work with. So I think they're thinking at a very high level as far as accommodation goes.
I'm willing to grant you that, but I need a time frame. I don't want to go down the road and it be getting close to the time when this needs to be renewed, and they say, well, we're sorry, we haven't gotten this project completed yet. You need to grant it to us so we can get it done.
What if
I want a reasonable timetable from the time that they can open, and if it's past this spring, to when it will be completed, or when they think it can be completed, if they sign to do this right away.
Well, their limitation is 60 at the property line right now. So they don't have any time at all to maintain that level. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're gonna do. And they can do it by buying a bunch of My Pillows or designing something big to make sure that you know, if they're trying to accommodate the client more, they can. But you know, this is something that can be constructed within a 6-month period.
You know, this I want to clarify, Steve. Steve brings up a very good
That's
point.
a whole season.
Wait a minute, who's
Excuse
speaking?
us. Esther and Frank
I said-
Weigel. We'd like to go back to Damian Young's question.
Yeah, I think, you know, Damien's question with the survey, we're completely open doing some kind of survey before the next go around. And in my eyes, I mean, Lowell and Phyllis have an IUP currently, the 2.5 years left. Basically, we're being added on. They're remaining on site. You know, I'm welcome that, you know, not just 1 or 2 years to be with us for, you know, 5, as long as they like to be there. We're welcome to have. We really could learn from them and love to have them around. So in our eyes, we just view, you know, the 2.5 years of just being added on to a current permit that they already have as kind of our tryout, basically. And when we come, you know, come back in the 2.5 years, you know, if we haven't made great improvements and we haven't done a lot of things, you know, it's an opportunity for you guys to kind of, you know, I guess, you know, shut the door on us. But I think you're going to find we're going to make a lot of improvements. We can do a survey, whether the city wants to conduct it or we conduct it or jointly, however we want to do it. We're completely open to that. So to me, this is kind of like our opportunity just to have a tryout on a permit that they currently already are operating under. And that's why you have the IUP is for these sensitive types of things. That it's not a permanent thing. It's basically a temporary, and we go back to
make it better.
Madam Mayor,
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, this is Madam Mayor. I just have a comment here. In order to move this along, I just want to make it clear to the commission, it's really not the commission's job to tell the applicant how they're going to reduce the sound level. It's the commission's job to determine what the sound levels should be at the property lines. And that's what needs to be done. And that's what needs to be discussed. I think all the other discussion as to how it will be accomplished, that is really outside of our perimeter. David, can you weigh in here maybe? Is that correct, or am I offline here?
No, Madam Mayor, that's absolutely correct. I mean, they've got a preliminary plan. I think what everyone needs to understand here too, in terms of a timeline and time frame, is it's kind of the chicken and the egg situation here. They haven't officially closed on the property, and nor, you know, why would you go and engage with a sound engineer to draw up you know, a elaborate, expensive plan if you don't know you're going to get added to the IUP and you haven't officially closed on the sale of the property. So, you know, they've done their preliminary due diligence to come up with a preliminary plan, if you will. I think, you know, as this thing moves through the process, the applicants are the ones who have to take it upon themselves. You've heard from both Lowell and Craig about things that they've done historically, different things they did, different tools they used. You know, that is all on them to produce. So as this moves along, you know, we'll certainly have to be talking and working with them to figure out when these improvements are coming, and we can certainly go out there and look at those. But at the end of the day, it's the conditions in the IUP that need to be upheld. There's enforcement policies and such in place to do those things, and the new owner will certainly have to work with neighbors and the city and other agencies as necessary if issues in those sorts of things arise. Furthermore, as you'll see in your staff report, I mean, there's a specific processes laid out if there are violations made to these conditions of the IUP. The first step is to try to deal with them from a code enforcement standpoint, but if problems persist and it doesn't get fixed, we can bring the applicants to you, the Planning Commission, to hold a hearing, and then also take it to the city council for ultimate, whether that you amend those conditions, firm up those conditions, or even revoke the permit if they continue not to abide by the conditions that are laid out. So yes, I think it's a very good point, Madam Mayor, to try to help move the discussion. It really, at the end of the day, it falls on them to come up with a plan and make sure they adhere to all those conditions as such.
Right. And also, we need to just maybe touch, I hate to touch it, but traffic after the weddings are over. How are they going to address that, or not how, but if they're going to be able to address that to the satisfaction, what's the real issue with that, if it's managed correctly?
Well, if I may too here, quick, Chair and members of the commission, as is laid out in the IUP, if they need to contact the public safety department, there are occasions when they actually have historically actually hired community service officers to come out and help regulate that. I think they've also hired their own people to do so. And again, I think that, I mean, this is similar to the noise, Madam Chair and members of the commission. You know, the police are certainly aware of the situation. They're certainly out there. And again, that you know, at the end of the day, the logistics of that has to fall on them, and they do have the police department available that comes out and is for hire. They get hired to go out there and help out for larger types of events.
This is Peter Vickery, Madam Chair. I'm wondering about that too. Nick, how many complaints or issues has the police department had over the years with the traffic, or do they go out there, you know, because they're concerned?
Yes, I did touch base with our public safety department to try to get an idea of just how frequent they're out there for, primarily for noise and for traffic. I mean, there's other issues that happen on, you know, occasion that I won't go into. But I mean, I would say it was probably, you know, somewhere between, you know, 5 and 10, maybe, you know, to a dozen or something like that. And that was since they've got the original IUP, which, as Craig said, I think is 2013 or 14, somewhere in that range.
Is that for both noise and traffic?
That was, I think, the totality of the issues. Like I said, there's some other issues that, you know, I don't think they're more civil matters that we can't get into, but.
So
let me address something to that, okay? There have been many complaints that have come from my household, but we chose not to call the police department. We chose it was more neighborly to contact the people who were running it. And I can tell you, when Lowell was really hands-on involved, that he would walk down and he would check on what was going on. And he would personally ask, is the noise too loud? If people dropping garbage or things. It was a very workable agreement. Since the winery has been there, it has been totally opposite. There's been no cooperation from the people when you talk to them. There's been no one coming down to talk to you. It was a totally different scenario than from 2005 forward, and I've been here for 27 years. So I think we tend not to call the police on noise issues necessarily in this area. We tend to try to deal with our neighbors. So that may be a little distorted.
Okay, so did anybody else have any discussion, any questions? Any other thoughts here? Do y'all kind of know where you're leaning? Do I have, maybe I need to have a motion at this point?
Chair Sandholm, can I ask you a question, a process question? This is John Sturgis.
Yes.
Can we ask questions, since you're asking, possibly asking to move forward on this, can we ask questions of each other during this right
Yes.
now? Or, okay.
Yes, it's a discussion. Yep.
Okay, so here are the questions I have. Would we approve this if it were new? Meaning this IUP, would we approve this if this came to the table and were new? Secondly, the management process, all right? And how are they going to handle this? Saying they can do it, I believe them, but will they be able to handle the management, such as the noise, the traffic, and so on? If Mr. Pettis and his wife and others, the Cotolas and others have heard noise, then it definitely wasn't just at a regular discussion that's supposed to be. The next thing is, well, this was already asked, but how many times the owners were ticketed? But so we already discussed that. So that's really my big question here, is that we ask ourselves, I think, would this be something we'd approve right now? And if it would not be something approved, why would we want to approve it moving forward?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think John brings up some good points. I think, John, what's the difficulty for me here is that we're dealing with a history and we have additional things that are going on, right, John? So it's a little more difficult for me to separate that from, if somebody came in net new and say, hey, I want to start this business out here and start holding events and whatnot, we wouldn't have all these other discussions. We might have discussions about what might happen and what they think are going to happen. So that's kind of where I'm at. And as far as the management of it, it sounds to me like we got a motivated buyer here and a motivated family that wants to come in and live in harmony with the rest of their neighbors and in this city. And so, from my perspective, given that there's only 2.5 years left, and the fact to what David Abel was talking about, where we have the ability, if things do get out of hand, that we have the ability to call them back in front of us and talk about mitigating these issues and potentially even pulling the IUP. I mean, all those types of recourses that are available to us certainly make me want to give them the opportunity to prove themselves. So that's where my head's at, John. And good questions. Thank you.
Yes. And I have to agree with Gary that we have a chance for a tryout for new people to make this work the way it used to work and keep the neighbors happy, satisfied, and still be able to have this business.
Yeah, this is Justin. I would agree as well. I think definitely I can understand the neighbors' concerns with the sound and in the events, but it seems like Esther and Frank have taken a lot of ownership in this, and especially with the sound equipment that they're going to be installing on site, I think that will definitely help with the sound. And like you said, there's 2 years left on the IUP, and I mean, I think they're going to be pretty diligent about following, the protocols and all the terms of the IUP that are in place. So I think I definitely can see that. I can definitely see the advantage of this, and I think I support it as well.
Anybody else? Justin?
That was Justin.
Okay.
Damien, you got anything?
I think I would agree with what Laura said. I think we got 2 years here to onboard new neighbors and give them the opportunity to fix a problem that was really difficult for all parties, I think. In 2 years, I think we're going to have a lot more feedback, because whether it's Kent Lee and Gary and those other people, they're going to be here in 2 years, and we can go look back and say, well, either we're going to go yes or we're going to go no. And I think it's going to be really clear at that point, because we've at least given them the opportunity to mitigate these issues, so we can kind of see, did these new neighbors follow through with what they said. I made the suggestion of them, not the city, but them actively taking surveys and to the level I think the neighbors feel like they've been heard. and sharing that with us in 2 years, letting us know how things are going so we can make an easier decision then, hopefully for the better, right? So that's my take. I mean, I think you got a changing the guard. I'd be in support of making the adjustment to the IUP because that's really the best situation for the city. Otherwise, the IUP is going to stay in place, and we're not going to have the opportunity to transition and make this a better situation. And then the IUP is just going to run out. So, I would say I agree with Laura. Give them the 2-year opportunity to make this change.
I have a question to all of you who agree with that. I'm curious how open, if we get halfway into the season here and it's a problem and it continues to be a problem, how open are you going to be to changing or to listening and opening this case up again?
I would be. If they can't follow the IUP, then we should be looking at it anyway.
Exactly. Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be very much open to listening to, if we've got issues or it comes up again, or if we have any enforcement issues. Yeah, I'd be in support of hearing it through again.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think there's any question. I think the Weigels understand the IUP is transferred to them the day that they take ownership, and they need to adhere to it at that timeline. I don't, unless Weigels, you want to add to that. I think I take that you understand that completely.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
The microphone wasn't working.
But yeah, absolutely,
Yes,
we understand that.
we
IUP.
get it. We get it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've kind of gone over it and over it. So I think we're ready for a motion. Does somebody have a motion?
Well, did we have any additional conditions that we wanted to apply to it?
Well, this is Peter Vickery. I'll make the motion. Let's see, I don't think we were going to add any amendments to it. But a motion to recommend that the City Council approve the requested interim use permit amendment based on certain finding of facts outlined in the staff report and subject to the addition of the following conditions 1 and 2.
Right, and the reason we're not adding anything, it's already in the IUP, correct? The noise is in there, all the other items.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're just reiterating that they need to adhere to that.
Okay, so
I'll second that.
do I have it? Damian seconds it. Okay. Any more discussion on this before we go down the roll call? Okay. Can we have a roll call?
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. Okay. Chair Sandholm?
I say aye.
Vice Chair Vickery?
Aye.
Gary Pettis?
I oppose.
Okay. Livermore?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Forbrook?
Aye.
And Sturgis?
Aye.
Did I miss any? No, that's it. So motion passes 6-1, opposed Pettis.
Yes. Okay, well, we finished that item on the agenda. Thank you, everybody. We hope not to hear back.
Thank you
about
for your time.
I'll just jump
Thank
in.
you.
2 years.
just for everyone here that was interested, this is a recommendation from the Planning Commission. It will be forwarded to the City Council either at their February 1st or February 16th meeting for final action.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's see, we're on to the next item in our agenda. So anybody that doesn't want to stay and listen, except for the planning commissioners, of course. So we have a comprehensive plan amendment is next. Do you want to tell us some things about this, Nick?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'll give a little bit of a background here. We do have the applicant on the line here, and they've got a short presentation they've prepared of which was included in your packet for those that are on phone only. If you'll be able to follow along, that presentation is included. But essentially what we have here, the request is for a comprehensive plan amendment for the property at 4000 Enchanted Lane. It's currently owned by the Masonic Home, and they use it as a camp, and they have done so historically there. But now there's some changes to the camp, and the applicant here, we'll get into this a little bit more, but they essentially are trying to liquidate some of their assets here. And the request is to change the future land use plan from park public, semi-public to residential low. This will be consistent with the present zoning of the property, which is the R1 low density single family residence. And also the property is located within what's called the MUSA line. Basically that's the utility service area. There is sewer in the street. It would be private wells for the properties that they would potentially be splitting into. They did submit a couple of concepts included with this application. They are considering, none of which is on the docket for action. It's just purely for representation and discussion purposes. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over here to the applicant. I'm going to try to share screen for those that have the capabilities. Otherwise, like I said, the presentation was included in the packet for those to follow along. So unless there's questions of myself, I'm going to try to get the screen sharing going here.
I have one quick question, Nick. You said wells. Does that include? You said wells. Does that mean septic systems as well?
Nope. Sewer is available in Enchanted Lane, and each lot would then be connected into the city's sewer system, but it would be a private well for water.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of myself? All right, I'm going to try to give this screen sharing a shot here.
Am I sharing my screen or are you sharing your screen, Nick?
I'm trying to share mine.
Oh,
is that okay. Working for everyone?
Perfect.
Here we go.
Am I free to roll?
You are up.
Yes.
Yeah, just give your name, your address, and then go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chair, Planning Commissioners Paul Robinson with the Bancorp Group, 5433 DuPont Avenue South, Minneapolis. Appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. We're here, as Nick mentioned, to re-guide the 4000 Enchanted Lane property from park public, semi-public to low-density residential. Next slide.
Olson.
So I just thought we'd quick touch base on who we are. So we're the Bancorp Group is mainly the two of us, Dave Newman and myself, Paul Robinson. Next slide. We have been in business doing development for about 28 years. I have entitled over 2,500 home sites throughout the Twin Cities. And we've been involved in Minnetrista pretty intimately over the last decade, developing Woodland Cove for Carlson companies. And so pretty familiar with a lot of what Minnetrista has. Next slide. So the property that we're talking about, Enchanted Lane, is it's 7.7 acres because it comes with a little bit of wetland that kind of crosses the road, kind of northwest. The net acres, buildable acres, is 6.1 acres. It has about 655 feet of shoreline, and as Nick mentioned, the Masons Charity Holding Corporations, who owns the property right now. It has been a camp since 1943, so quite a while. I think they bought it in 1942. And, you know, we mentioned some of the reasons they're selling it. We haven't had long conversations about this. It's been actually, I think, a long-term goal. The property's been for sale on and off since 2006. And it's not that necessarily they can't afford it, but just to paying the holding costs and the maintenance is just something that they'd like to deploy their resources in other ways. So that's why they're trying to sell it. Next slide. So today, as Nick mentioned, it's guided for park, public, semi-public. That's the you know, on the top there, the little red circle is green because that's what it's guided. It's zoned R1. All of the island currently is zoned low density residential. You can see the big green circle that shows everything yellow. What we're requesting is consistent with all of the guiding surrounding the property. The zoning is consistent, if you look on the bottom, with all of the zoning on the island. And so we believe we can work within generally work within this R1 zoning, and but we do need the guiding to change in order for the property to be developed. So our goal would be to have the home sites be generally consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Next slide. And so just because none of us can help want to think about how we're going to develop it, we provided a couple concepts so you could visualize better. We're really looking between the 6 and 8 lot range. The 6 lot plan basically has 6 lake lots. We think it's a little simpler plan, feels pretty consistent with the neighborhood. But we also have an 8 lot plan that's also a possibility, and we will refine these plans as we move forward. And like we said, we generally prefer the 6 lot plan, but we could do either. But this is just so that you have, at least in your mind's eye, what we are doing. And yeah, we know that sometimes when you don't know, it's scarier than knowing something. So next slide, is there one more? And so basically, just in summary, our request is simply to re-guide from park public, semi-public to low density residential. And I know it's a public hearing, so if you want, we'll answer questions or be here for questions whenever you would like to ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. This is Bruce Olson. I have a question for Paul.
Is this?
Can we
wait a minute?
wait till the
Are
public
you?
hearing?
Yeah. Are you
For
part
the
of the
comments
owners?
here, I guess Bruce is a neighbor.
Okay. Well,
but Laura,
we're
I don't
gonna
know
wait
if the
for the
planning
public
commission.
hearing.
Yeah, let's planning commission. If you've got questions for the applicant or questions for myself, let's do that briefly. Otherwise, I'll do the same manner as before. I'll do the roll call and ask for any public comment during the public hearing once the chairs open that up.
Yes. So now, is there any questions that the commissioners want to make?
This is Peter Vickery. I'd like to make a. Nick, what on the public park or semi-public, is the intent to keep that in the public domain, or is that just because it was a kind of a semi-public use of the land?
Yeah, I think it had to do with the the ownership being the Masons, and the use as a camp, I think, was in line with that park public, semi-public. That district doesn't necessarily mean it's owned by a public agency, or specifically the city. We see various types of properties from city owned to city parks to watershed district properties to Three Rivers properties. There's various groups and entities that own property that's guided in that similar fashion. So I think it was mostly to do with the owner being the Masons and the Masonic and its use as a kind of a camp. I think that's why the transition was made.
Yeah, I'll jump in there just a little bit. This is David here. I'll just jump in a little bit and say that's absolutely correct. It's merely because of the use of the property and what it has historically been. And I will add that this actually is no surprise or shock. This property's been on the radar through our last 2 cycles of our comprehensive plan updates that we've gone through. So that's the past almost 20 years. We've known about this conflict with the comp plan and the zoning of the property. And quite frankly, why it's never been changed is because A, the owners have never asked for it to be changed, and B, the future use of it, as Paul, the applicant, mentioned, I mean, it's been on the market and off the market several times throughout the last 10 years for sure. And so it was just unclear or uncertain what was going to happen with it. So the city did not take it upon themselves to make the change with just the uncertainty of what was going to happen with it in the future. And finally now back on the market, someone's willing, to enter into a purchase agreement and actually go ahead and move forward with that change. So just a point of clarification, it has come up the last 2 comp plans that I've been involved with the city. And like I said, for the reasons I mentioned, that's why we just didn't go ahead and make the change to it.
So let me understand.
So David, excuse me. So it's not really.
Can I just ask something? I want to understand. It's always been zoned residential R1, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is just the comp plan doesn't match what our zoning says.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Which is technically an easier way of doing it. If you're going to have your comp plan and your zoning not coincide with one another, this is actually a better way of doing than the other way, having the guiding being different. So this is very, very typical or common scenarios that will pop up, especially with this type of zoning when you're talking about public, semi-public, with, like as Nick mentioned, different agencies that own different properties and open spaces throughout communities. So something that's very common, and like I said, that has been points of discussions before, just little housekeeping things that we've looked at doing in the past, but for reasons I mentioned, it just hasn't gotten done.
So David, just to clarify, then it's not something that's permanent as a semi-public land. It can be changed, and like we're talking about now, is that
correct? Absolutely. Yep.
I've got a question, David. Okay, are the new or existing owners going to have to come back to the Planning Commission to divide those lots up? Do we have an idea if it's going to be a PDU or, I mean, any indications there? Can you confirm? Or once it's, once we do this, are we not going to have the opportunity to comment on any other, how that's divided, how many 6 or 8 is my question.
Very good question. And so yes, tonight, all that's being asked of you tonight is the comprehensive plan amendment from that public to the residential. Then that is really all the action that's needed for tonight. They will be, if this is successful and it moves through the city council, the next step would be coming forward to the Planning Commission for you to review a subdivision application. So there would be further review by, for sure, the Planning Commission with a public hearing. You would take public comment and review that proposed subdivision. As the applicant pointed out, they've got a few just preliminary concepts that they threw in that they're kicking around. Depending upon which way it goes, the number of lots and such and our standards, I think the ultimate goal is to try to conform with our residential standards. But I mean, you know, the idea of a PUD, you just never know. We haven't gotten that far in the process. But to answer your question, you would likely be seeing it relatively soon. I'll certainly let Paul, the applicant, jump in about timing. But from all the indications that I've heard, they'd be coming with, you know, very soon here with a proposed subdivision for you to review and provide more comment about, you know, lot sizes, how the layout is, those sorts of details. This is more of, like I said, a kind of a housekeeping item to you know, move along in the process.
There isn't much to say tonight, then. There really isn't much to say. The next meeting.
Did anybody else on the commission have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I guess we can open the public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Do you want to go down the list to see who would like to speak to this?
Yep, Madam Chair, I'll, in a similar fashion to the previous item, I'm just going to go on the list of names I've got here. If you wish to speak, please give your name and address for the record, and then state your comments. If you don't have any comment on this item, if you could just please let me know that as well, it'd be appreciated. But up first is Bruce Olson. So Bruce, just give your name and your address for the record, and then any comments or questions you have.
Hi there. Address is 3980 Enchanted Lane. Bruce Olson and Carol Olson. And we're the immediate next door neighbors to the west of the camp property. And we've been here for 48 years, so we're very familiar with what's going on with the camp and its lack of use. And we knew something was going to happen. But of the two plans, the non-preferred plan, the 5 lakeshore lots and 3 cul-de-sac lots, was that plan was put on the market back in 2007 by Caldwell Banker. And the reason for only 5 lakeshore lots was there was a variance required because of the footage on the back side of those lots. And I did talk to Nick there yesterday, and he said that variance would still be required. The first plan that was preferred with the 6 lakeshore lots, I'm curious whether what the access to each individual lot would be off of Enchanted Lane. I'm trying to figure out how you could work that as to water drainage and also what the lakeshore setbacks would be for individual homes on each of those 6 lots.
Okay, that's probably something we'd answer in the next, when they come back to the Planning Commission to show how they want to develop it. So right now we don't have a lot of information to answer all those questions, so save that for when we come back with that, but good points about drainage, etc. And so this one
has
has
a point
to
of
do
clarification. I just, me and Bruce did speak. The variance was in comment to the 6 lot proposal that doesn't involve a street. I didn't get into the specifics of the 8 lot proposal with the 5 lakeshore lots. I haven't seen any, numbers on that one to know for sure. But the 6 lot layout, I mean, it is possible that a variance would be required from the street side lot width. So I just want to clarify that.
right. And they would have to come back to us for the subdivision. So we're going to be here again for the person for Mr. Is it Anderson? I can't see the names
Olson.
anymore. Olson.
Mrs. Bruce and Carol Olson is the ones that are commenting now.
Okay. Anything else on whether we should change the comp plan zoning? Okay,
Hello.
thank you.
My name
So
is
next,
Steve Anderson. Are you asking to participate or waiting for names?
I will be continuing with the names. We were asking Bruce if he had any additional comments, I think.
All right, thank you.
Based on the comp plan request.
No,
Thank you for being patient.
Thank you.
So next up is Chris Conroy. Name and address for the record, and any comments?
Yeah, Chris Conroy and my wife Patty Conroy were at 4140 Enchanted Lane. So our lot basically parallels to the east of the park. So the only question, I think maybe the answer to this question is already defined, but am I to understand that the definition of low density residential would limit either the 8 lot or the 6 lot? Is there any other scenario where there would be more than 8 single residences built on this property?
Nick, can you answer that?
Yeah, I can kind of give a brief answer. Yeah, we got the R1, the low density here, but we've also got what's called our Shoreland overlay district. That district tends to require larger lots, I think 23,000 square feet in size, and also requires 100 feet in width. So that's, even more restrictive than the low density that the R1 establishes. So it's quite likely that the maximum, you'd be looking at is that 8 lot proposal. And obviously there is the 6 lot, but as previously stated, it's entirely possible that a variance to the lot width standards would need to be requested there, whereas the 8 lot configuration would warrant further research with a future application, but it may or may not necessitate any variance, just a subdivision application.
So I guess to clarify, then there would be no scenario where there could be 6 shorter shoreline lots and individual townhomes or condos along Enchanted Lane?
Any sort of multi-family dwelling, anything from a twin home up to townhomes, condos, etc., that is not consistent with the R1. R1 is, single family detached dwelling units. So any sort of attached dwelling, they would have to rezone the property and, quite frankly, comprehensive plan amendment again, because it obviously wouldn't be consistent with the low density future land use plan. So I think, you're probably looking at the extremes here in terms of minimum 6, maximum 8. I mean, obviously that would be further discussed at a future subdivision application, but I think you're looking at the low and the high range, within that low density or low residential low future land use.
Okay, my final question is that I know the developer had engineering companies coming in to do an analysis of how the ground laid, the soil analysis. I'm guessing they did water table analysis to determine the efficacy of putting in proper foundations for whatever size residences go in. Has there been a determination to the Planning Commission as to just how close that property is to the water table and what is within the guidelines in order to make that entire area buildable? Because I think, as most of the neighbors will attest, a good part of the year, a high percentage of that park is underwater.
Maybe the applicant can speak to some of the research that they have done, but that information has not been presented to the Planning Commission, nor is it necessary at this level of the process. I mean, that would get determined and get reviewed by city staff in the engineering department during a preliminary plat application, and that information will be presented to the Planning Commission when they consider any sort of subdivision here.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Thank
So
you.
who do we have next?
Next up is a Garrett. I don't have a last name, but Garrett, do you wish to comment on this? If so, name and address for the record.
Garrett Anderson.
Garrett, are you there? All right, I will move on. If you can get in later, let me know. I forget if Judy and Les Heinen, were you here to speak on this item?
We are. I'm Les Heinen. We're at 3970 Enchanted Lane, and we are actually the neighbors to Bruce Olson. So my only question on this is, what further input as residential neighbors will we have on how this is developed?
Sure. The city ordinance, will require that when a preliminary plat application is submitted, that a public hearing is held, and the same notice distance of 500 feet would go out to property owners, and they would be invited to the public meeting to comment on the specific request at that time. It's also possible that the applicants themselves may hold any sort of open house or informational meeting themselves. I can't speak to that, nor I don't know that we can require that either.
We can encourage it.
Nick, I'm sorry, this is the mayor, just for clarification, because it's in the Shoreland district, isn't it 1,000 feet for notifications?
I'm not familiar with that additional requirement.
I thought it was, but okay, never mind.
Mr. Robinson, can you go back to your other slides, please, in your presentation that showed us your potential lot layouts?
Is this a good slide here, or do you want me to keep going back?
I believe this will suffice. My question is, has the city actually, as somebody mentioned previously, this area can be underwater frequently in the spring. And my question is, from a hookup to the sewer system, is the city confident that they would be able to access the current sewer system from where these lots actually end up close to the water?
So that research or that, information would have to be presented to the city engineering department. That has not been done to this point. Like I said, that would happen with the preliminary plat application. The utility plan would be reviewed by the city's engineering department, and comments would be addressed to the applicant at that time.
Okay, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Next on my list is Michael Meek. If you wish to comment, name and address to the record, please.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me? This is Michael Meek. Address 4120 Enchanted Lane. That's the property that on the second graphic where they have the cul-de-sac in there, just the lot right across from the cul-de-sac, the existing lot. So the question before the commission tonight is, should the 2040 comprehensive plan be amended to change the future use to R1? And for myself, my opinion is no, I don't think it should be amended. Presumably, the city planning staff put some real thought and effort into making this plan in the first place. It's not something that I think should be lightly changed. November 2019, from what I can tell, is when the current or the 2040 plan was drafted. So it's less than 2 years old. What has actually changed since that plan was drafted? As far as I can tell, the character of the area is no different now than it was at the time the plan was drafted. The only difference is that a developer now wants to build homes on the site. So, I don't really have any opinion on what the what the plan should be at this point, you know, with regard to potential development of houses on that. But I do know that there is currently no sidewalk, no bike trail, no public park of any kind on Enchanted Island. And the city of Minnetrista, in its wisdom, had decided, you know, apparently in 1943, that this parcel should be laid out for future use as public park, open space, or other public use. I think this property is probably the last best chance for the city of Minnetrista to have a public use area on Enchanted Island. I think the city got it right when the future use of this property was designated as a park or public use area, and I don't see any reason to change that now. And I would ask the Planning Commission to think deeply about that and perhaps slow this process down and take a more detailed look at what's going on with this property and what the long-term plan for public amenities on Enchanted Island is. That's it. Thank you.
Nick, I got a question.
Sure.
Thanks.
Is this property public, or is it public, and can just are the residents on Enchanted Island using it in any capacity now? Just curious.
It is not owned by the city. It's owned by the Masonic, the Masons. So I don't believe that I mean, I guess I don't know to what extent they open their property up to the public, but you know, it is not, the city has no interest in the property.
Michael, can you answer that? Being a resident of the island, can you tell me how you guys are using it as a public park? I'm just curious. I just want to see if there's
so I am a new resident of the island, but my understanding is that it's not the property owners would not prohibit someone from going over there and playing Frisbee on the property or anything like that. Yet at the same time, it's not, you know, intentionally meant to be open for the public to come and use it for picnics and things like that.
Okay, thank you. So
all right. Next up is Pam Anderson.
Hello, my name is Steve Anderson. Pam and I live at 4100 Enchanted Lane, just to the southwest of the Meekses. I built a house here and acquired the land about 35 years ago. And I was told that the E.J. Myers Park could never be sold because it was in the original donor's charter, that it was given to them with the understanding it had never been sold. So I don't know the status of that, and I don't pretend to. That's just what I've been told. I think that drainage is the biggest issue here. I know when I built, the city council was very concerned about drainage, and I was required to put in drain tile to the east and to the west of my property to handle any drainage. Plus, I was required to raise the level of the lot more than 4 feet. And part of that was because in order to get a mortgage, at least at the time, I don't know if that's still the case, but I was required to have flood insurance because we are in a flood plain. Now, if any of the park was developed, if they wanted to have a sellable lot, it would need to be at the same level as mine, which is 4 feet higher than the entire park, except for the hill to the northeast that's several hundred feet taller than the park, which brings to mind too, I know I was involved in other building projects in Mound, namely the Lutheran Church, and I begged them to check for Indian mounds. They said they didn't have to worry about it. There weren't any. They had to move their foundations, replant trees. I don't know if that's an issue there, but I think there's either the Minnesota, University of Minnesota or the state has indications as to whether or not a mound, as the name of our city implies, has Indian mounds that need to be protected. My church spent way too much money replanting trees, moving foundations. I don't know. I was always told that that is an Indian mound. It's the only high spot on the whole island, and the whole area was known for Indians in the mid 1800s. So I don't know. I'm just bringing it up because it's a possibility, and you wouldn't want to find that later.
Right,
So,
and that's something that the owner and the buyer would do, correct, Nick?
I
Is
would
that
think
something they have to review?
I mean, something that certainly would warrant researching. I mean, I don't know where in the ordinance or how that fits into the city requiring it, but I mean, as Steve
Probably
mentioned, I
doesn't.
mean, you certainly wouldn't want to find out the hard way.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
I do. And as far as drainage is concerned, I think I mentioned I had to put in drain tile
Yes.
going to the west and going to the east in order to get my building permit and that. But the fact that I've raised my lot makes drainage a problem, I think, for some of the other lots in the park, because actually they are almost the same elevation as the wetlands just to the north of them, across the road, Enchanted Lane, and the fish spawning area and the wetlands to the north of it. And if there's runoff from the houses, which there will be, where's it going to go? They are so low.
Right.
They
This
are
is something they will do when they do the preliminary plat.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you, there has been years, especially several years ago, where we had more than 18 inches of water covering the entire park. And there were thousands of fish, carp spawning in the water. So we called the DNR to ask them what we could do for when the water recedes. We're going to have 1,000 stinking carp carcasses out in the pond and in the park. They told us that we couldn't do anything about it. We weren't allowed to touch them, shoo them out, catch them, or do anything. But I mean, that's an issue, and it is very low out there. So for my neighbor, Mike and Kathy Meeks, just to the east of me, that's a huge problem for them because I'm 4.5 feet higher than they are. And it will come right over my driveway into their living room because their lot's not elevated like mine is. So just to give you, you don't see the same.
This is something I'd like to save for when we do the preliminary plat.
Yeah, that's fine. You asked me if I have something. That's it.
We do.
Yeah, I also have a question regarding some of the accuracy on the survey. I know we can handle that later. I also have questions on side and rear and setbacks and that.
Yep, that'll be addressed in the preliminary plat. Yep. Good questions.
Minimum lot size. Now, I owned 5.5 acres across from the Minnetonka Country Club in Shorewood. And I was developing the 5 acres into 5 lots, no lakeshore, just directly across from the Minnetonka Country Club, which is now fully developed. But the city at the time would only let me do a PUD for 3 lots on 5.5 acres if I put in my own cul-de-sac. Now,
Right, but every city has different ordinances, so Minnetrista's may not be the same.
I understand that. I didn't say they
Okay.
weren't. I'm just telling you what happened to me. So I'm asking the question. Other than that, we have eagles nesting in the trees on top of the hill to the far northwest corner of the property. A lot of foxes and deer living in the woods that are around the property and on the property. And I also think about if the property were developed, there would be hundreds of thousands of tons of material that would have to be brought over Red Bridge, which is now green. So I don't know if that would be an issue, but it could be. As I'm sure all my other neighbors feel, density is important. We would prefer less density and not more. I wonder if it has any effect at all on either our property's assessments or taxes that may be impacted by a development. And you know, we have no curb, no gutter. We actually have no storm sewer. We don't have any way to get rid of drainage. All mine is designed to drain to the lake. Now I'm in the furthest south.
When we do the preliminary plat, we will be reviewing that at that time. I guess I'd like to stick to.
I've got a question for Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Anderson, are you opposed to the change to the comprehensive plan, or you're not? I just wanted to just hear whether you are or not.
Yeah, of course I am. I don't pretend to speak for any of the neighbors, but I would guess that they would all care to see less density than a whole housing development next to us. Now you don't have to be opposed to the whole thing to just be sure that we have some input as to what happens. I have site views I have to be concerned about. So do all of us, or most of us. So when you build that many houses in front of the lake, we need to know how many docks are going to go there. I have almost 300 feet of shoreline. I'm just in a unique position. I'm at the end of the point on that part of the island. So I'm already only 50 feet from the lake. And I just don't want to have views blocked, of course. And these are things I would imagine we can work out without any problem with the developer. I don't really want, I don't want to stand in the way of any development, but I just want to be included, as I'm sure all of my neighbors do, the decisions that go into what happens. And I understand that's what these hearings are for, but I also don't know for sure what their plans are, and I'm sure we'll find that out. But are these going to be spec houses or design and build houses. So I'm just more eager than ever to find out what the plans are. But now you know what mine and some of our neighbors' concerns are. And if it's going to be built, we're just all looking forward to having a community and neighbor decision on what happens. That's all.
Yep.
So
that's what
I'm
we
done.
have the public hearings for. So we're glad that you're interested and that you're speaking.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your comment, Mr. Anderson. And as I understood what you said, is you're not opposed to the development of the property, but you are concerned with it blocking the view, drainage, or anything else that we'll discuss in the future, and you want to make sure you're being heard for those things. Is that correct?
Well, okay. Opposed? Of course. I've lived here for 35 years without it. But what's the next level? Crazy opposed? No. I mean, you can't stand in the way of progress if it's going to happen, okay? I want to be involved. So do all my neighbors. Whether or not there'd be lawsuits and all that, I don't know. It's gone on all over the lake. So it really wasn't expected though, because I bought this property and actually all of us did with the understanding it would never be developed. So that's kind of the letdown here. We were led to believe that because it was a charitable donation, it could never be sold. That's what we were told 30, 35 years ago. That's what the newer residents were told. And Bruce Olson has been here for 45 years. He was probably told the same thing. So I'm not a community activist or an agitator or anything else. There are issues that need to be discussed. That's all I'm saying. And I appreciate the opportunity to participate.
Yep, thank you.
So
and you'll have your chance to participate again when they bring this for the preliminary plat. And the city will be looking at what they're proposing to see if it even meets the city codes and ordinances.
Oh, I understand that.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. I do appreciate your input.
Thank you.
No, why?
Oh,
you're welcome. Thank
okay.
you.
Yep. Okay, Nick.
All right, Susan Strabicki. If you wish to speak, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, sure. I live at 3950 Enchanted Lane, and I'm just here just to get information, so I have no further comments, just listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being interested.
Anyone else? There was an unidentified caller. Do you wish to speak? Hearing none, is there anyone else that would like to comment on the comprehensive plan amendment request at 4000 Enchanted Lane that has not had the opportunity to speak?
Okay,
Hearing none, I think, Chair, you can take over.
Okay, I'm going to close the public meeting since everybody seems to have gotten their piece in. Is there discussion between the planning commissioners? Any questions to the staff or to the applicant?
This is Steve O'Brien. I did have a question for Nick. Nick, we're not actually changing the future use of this land, right? It's always been, or it's been recently, I'm not sure when, designated R1, but it had a land use that was inconsistent with its designation. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, you are changing the future. They're requesting that you consider a change in the future land use. That is the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
As to, how the property use will actually change. I mean, that's forthcoming in possible subdivision applications, et cetera. But I mean, the request that they're making this evening for consideration by the Planning Commission is consistent with the present zoning, which is the R1 low density single family residence.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was just a little confused on that terminology. Thank you for clearing it up.
Anyone else have any other questions from the commission? Peter? You're
Well,
freezing.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, good. Yeah, I had to move around the house, so hopefully this helps. So the city itself never's had any interest in developing this as a park or acquiring the property. That was never part of the city plan. It was just that this nonprofit organization owned it. Is that a good summary?
That's my understanding of the situation, yes.
Lisa, did we ever have
Thank
any
you.
designs on this as a park? Madam Mayor?
Well, let's say 21 years ago, in all that time, I've never heard any talk about the city buying it as a park.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments?
Nick, this is John. Very briefly, can you just summarize once again, my understanding here? It is zoned correctly, but the 20-year plan, it is incorrect within the 20-year plan. So we're deciding to make that change for the 20-year plan, but we're not making any changes in zoning.
Correct. Yeah, and I guess to say which is correct or incorrect in terms of its zoning and its future land use, I don't want to get into the specifics there, but in order for them to pursue a development, it is inconsistent. I mean, you don't residentially subdivide, park, public, semi-public land. So that's the need to look at the comprehensive plan amendment to set it up for possible development. You are correct. There is no rezoning included with this request. They will be working under the framework and the standards that the R1 low density single family residence and also the Shoreland overlay district provide for this property. So they'll have to work within those constraints to develop and subdivide the property.
I have a question, Nick. If when all the studies are done, it comes back that only 3 lots are can be developed on this property, does that run into any problems with the Musela line?
Or the Met Council?
Or the Met Council?
Yeah, I guess, obviously the comprehensive plan amendment has to go through the Met Council for their review. They'd have to approve it. So my guess is, at that time, it's quite possible we could have an understanding of what their thoughts are for the property, as to what they would expect to see. Obviously, if there's site limitations, there's only so much that can be done to make that work. So, I don't know how much the Met Council or anyone could force, a potentially undevelopable situation in certain circumstances. But obviously that's for them to tell us when we submit this to them for review.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, this is David here, and yes, that's absolutely correct. The Met, if there's environmental reasons or something that prohibits them from getting a higher density, the Met Council does not, they don't harm you in terms of your sewer hookups for that. That is not their practice of doing that when it comes to density. So no, that would not be a factor. And further, they've done sewer here recently, so there's obviously capacity and such, and with hookups, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But no, there would not be a concern there.
Okay, so and in any case, if there was, the applicant would know before they get too deep into this.
Correct.
This is Mike Kirk with a question.
Nick?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm at 5435 Cedar Point Road. My question is if we make this change to this new description, are we closing the door forever for this to be considered as a possible parkland on the waterfront for the city at some point in the future?
I don't believe that it would, obviously slam the door shut. I mean, there's a lot to be decided. I mean, it's, private property, and, the city can look at that through its review of the park dedication requirement as to whether or not a public park here is necessary, or if, a cash in lieu consideration is the correct route. But I mean, as Lisa stated, and as I understand it, I mean, there's no interest from the city to pursue development of a public park wholly of this property.
And is that only because it's never been considered before? I mean, 30 years it's been private, if you will, as the profit owning it. But it would be a dramatic piece of parkland in this end of the city where there is no other city park other than a small play lot in the neighborhood.
I can jump in there, Planning Commission and Chair. David here, Community Development Director. You can. I mean, I don't know the sale price of this property, but just obviously it's 7 acres with hundreds of feet of lakeshore and Lake Minnetonka. I can almost guarantee you, and Lisa, feel free to chime in here, that we don't have enough money in our park dedication fund now to even think about purchasing the property and further more maintain and add to all of the existing parks that we currently have in our community. So I think, purely from a funding standpoint, it's completely out of the realm of possibility that unless the owner's willing to donate it to the city, the funds just simply aren't not available, or realistic is it to think that the city is ever anytime soon going to be in a position to actually follow through and buy a piece of property like that on Lake Minnetonka.
That answers the question.
I'll jump in here real quick. David is correct. The city does not have those kind of funds, and it's never been talked about simply because of the financial aspect of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Quick question.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
We make the recommendation to the city council. The city council then still needs to submit this to the Met Council for final planning amendment, or does it stop right there?
No, the Met Council, would have to approve the amendment request.
And then it's sent to Met Council.
The city would complete its process, then it would go to the Met Council for their process, and then, assuming if things do continue to get approval, it would proceed to, a subdivision application, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? If not.
Yeah, this is Ms. Heinen again. If I can just ask you a quick question. A couple of years ago,
sure,
all of us were assessed. And if I recall, the number was relatively aggressive to put a new road onto Enchanted Island. And we all had to pay our share of having that road done. And now if we're talking about 6 new lots adjoining that road, does that mean that we would be under consideration for a recalculation of the tax we were assessed?
Madam Chair, can I answer that?
Please answer that. I can't.
The answer to that is no. The assessments were done. It went through a process, and they were assessed just like you for one parcel. So the answer would be no, they would not receive any additional assessments, nor would you receive a reduction in your assessment. But good question.
Okay. I see this, I guess, as changing the comp plan to match the existing zoning. I guess I'm okay with changing this. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
I would concur with that. If it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen somewhere in the near future. It's a Masonic lodge, needs funds to continue to operate. They're going to find a way to move the property, or at least sell the property to someone.
Right, and I'm good with it because they're already in the MUSA line, so that's not being changed.
No, and you know, it looks like it looks like a very workable plan. You know, obviously the proof will be in the pudding when we see the actual plans that the builder has, and
with
recommendations
drainage
from our city or from our city. So I see no reason not to do that.
So does everybody have their, I guess at this point, I think we know enough that somebody can make a motion and then we can vote it up or down. Do I hear a motion out there somewhere?
Madam Chair, what we could do is formulate the motion, and then maybe somebody would be willing to make that motion.
I think Peter might be trying to do it, but he's seizing up. So
I can do it.
Who's going to do it?
This is Justin.
Okay, sounds
I was
good.
looking for it too. I can make a motion to recommend the city council approve the requested comprehensive plan amendment at 4000 Enchanted Lane based on certain findings of fact outlined in the staff report and subject to the following conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Gary.
We have a second from Gary. And I guess
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, who made the motion? I didn't catch
Justin
that.
did. Justin did.
Justin did? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we need the roll call now.
Okay. Chair Sandholm?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vickery?
Aye.
Pettis?
Aye.
Corbrook?
Aye.
Livermore?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
And Sturgis.
Aye.
That roll call motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you for everybody that came to speak to this. I hope you come back if they come with a preliminary plat plan that we can discuss more of the details about all the items that you brought up tonight. So thank you for joining us for that public hearing, and we're hoping to hear from you again if they indeed bring us a plat plan. So Nick, do you want to tell them that this is just preliminary?
Yep, this is just for the comprehensive plan amendment. So this is a recommendation that'll get forward to the city council, quite likely on the February 1st meeting for final action, and then it'll proceed through the process as such.
Thank you, everybody.
And Nick, will we receive, as neighbors, will we receive a reasonable notice as to when we would have the opportunity to review the plans?
Yes, the same notice distance will be sent out. Statute gives us a time frame, minimum of 10, no more than 30. So that'll be the range of which you'll be given notice.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, on to our next item now. This is just a business item. There's no public hearing associated with this. This is about the land being purchased by Three Rivers Park District. Do you want to tell us about that, Nick?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This item here is the consideration of Three Rivers Park District purchasing land with the PID 22-117-2412-0002. It's land north of the Dakota Rail Trail adjacent to Gale Woods Park. And the review of the Planning Commission is for compliance with the comprehensive plan per certain Minnesota state statutes. In the staff report, I kind of outlined a little bit of the background of what's going on here. The district is, operates on a willing seller basis. It's kind of their hope and their policy. So the property owner, is opening up discussions to sell the property to Three Rivers willingly. So that meets their criteria, and included in the packet was an outline of the master plan for Gale Woods, which this would become part of. So the discussion here is for the Planning Commission to review the purchase and then report to the City Council its compliance with the municipal plan. So that would be the motion we'd be seeking here is the acquisition consistent with the comprehensive plan or not. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. I believe we do have someone from Three Rivers Park District that can speak to the request if there are questions. But I'll open it up for questions of myself, and we can go from there.
Thank you. Any questions for Nick or for Three Rivers?
Well, Nick, this is Peter Vickery. I had a question about the Jen Olson property. Is that related at all to that proposal that we had, back in November to do a big development?
Obviously, they all they were sparked by one another. However, it's our understanding that, absent what happened with the concept plan we reviewed, Jen is still looking to pursue the sale to Three Rivers, or at least considering it. So even though, the other request, obviously received the feedback it did, this is independent of that.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, this is John. Possibly, excuse my ignorance on this. Can you tell me why this would not be consistent with the comp plan?
There's probably various reasons and all, circumstantial to different situations, but it could be a future planned use for the property, certain development possibilities, city public use, things like that. I think in this specific application, it's relatively straightforward. It's rural ag land, not slated for any, amount of significant development in the near future. It's directly adjacent to the existing Three Rivers Park of Gale Woods Farm. There's just a lot in this situation that point to the consistency with the plan. But like I said, as far as situations of when it would be inconsistent, obviously that would be case by case basis, maybe there's, it's not adjacent to any existing parks. There's various things that could come into play, but obviously that's not the case in this situation.
And Nick, this is being purchased by Gale Woods, correct? And
Three Rivers Park District is the one that owns and manages Gale Woods. So yeah, that's the name of the park. But Three Rivers is the agency behind it all.
And if they did want to make changes in the future, they would have to come back to us anyway.
As far as if they wanted to like develop it or what?
To develop it to where it would not be consistent with the comp plan.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Three Rivers being the agency that they are, and obviously that they're seeking an amendment to their plan to incorporate this in to the boundaries of the Gale Woods Regional Park. So I mean, obviously their intent is pretty clear of what they're going to do. But you're right. I mean, obviously, if for some reason that was to change, we would be looking at another, likely a comp plan amendment.
And that's what I'm trying to get to, Nick, is at least my understanding that we're really not, for this approval, I don't know if we're calling it an approval, but for this session, we're really not, it's not changing anything on the comp plan. And we would have that ability, as you stated, if Three Rivers came back to us and wanted to redevelop it in a different way, that it would be subject to our approval.
Correct. Yes. Essentially, what you're looking at is that the purchase of the land and the future use of the land for park purposes is consistent with the plan. So, assuming Three Rivers moves in the direction that they've kind of communicated to staff and indicated with their actions, I mean, that's what we're looking at tonight. And any changes to that, we'd be having a different discussion.
Can I ask Ms. Grissman if you see any reason why, for the purpose that you're looking at for today's session, that it would not fall within our comprehensive plan?
Before you answer that, give your name and address.
Kelly Grisman with Three Rivers Park District. The agency's address is 3000 Zenium Lane, Plymouth, Minnesota, 55441.
Thank you.
Planning Commissioner Chair and fellow commissioners, we see no change or nothing on this property that would be inconsistent with your comp plan or your zoning. Our intent is that it would stay very much like it is in its current state for the time being.
Thank you.
Any comments from anyone else?
This is pretty straightforward to me. And I mean, it's to me, it's inconsistent with what the city's trying to do overall. And I would think that we align with Three Rivers in this instance.
Yes, I'd have to agree.
I would agree.
Justin agrees.
So it sounds okay. Sounds like we might be ready for a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a recommended action here. Motion to determine Three Rivers Park District acquisition of PID 22117241200002 is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the city of Minnetrista per Minnesota statute 462356 subdivision 2, and to recommend that the city council adopt a resolution of support for the acquisition of previously said PID by Three Rivers Park District.
I would second.
Who seconded?
John.
Justin, right?
John?
John.
Thanks. Okay, great. We have a second. Now we want to go through the roll call.
Chris, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Sorry, I just could not get it off of mute. Okay, sorry about that. Chair Sandholm?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vickery?
Aye.
Pettis?
Aye.
Corbrook?
Aye.
Livermore?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
And Sturgis.
Aye.
And it's my understanding that, John, you seconded the motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So that that motion passes, the roll call motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay. So that'll be a nice addition to our parks. Okay,
Lisa, I'm
the
excited
next,
for the report.
pardon me?
Said I'm excited for Lisa's report.
Here we go. Well, no,
I thought we
first
were having
staff
staff,
report.
Oh,
staff reports first.
Yes,
Nick,
thank you,
do you have
Madam Chair.
anything?
I'll keep mine brief. I'll just touch on the items we spoke at in November. Both the variances for the Met Council along Highland Road and the new build on Cedar Point Road did pass with the City Council. So those projects, we're still waiting for the permit applications to come in, but the approvals by the city have been granted to allow them to apply for their permits. So not sure when that'll happen, but obviously they have time is spelled out in the variance application, which I think is a year. And other than that, I mean, we as staff, we've been pretty busy. We're doing quite a bit of new homes in 2020. I think we got close to our record, but I don't think we quite made it there. I don't have the exact final tallies in front of me, but it was somewhere, I think, in the 100 and 150 range, give or take, of new houses. So it was a good year in that respect. And as far as a agenda for February, didn't get anything by the deadline last week. So as of now, there's nothing slated for the agenda. I mean, there might be some discussions on some ordinances or things to clean up in housekeeping, but we'll keep you posted as we move towards that meeting in February. But that's really all I've got. I'll let Lisa take over and provide the council updates.
Hey, Nick, quick question. Did I hear you say that you guys issued 150?
Yeah, somewhere in that range. I don't have an exact number. I've been meaning to run a end of year report that would give me the final count, but my last tally was 140, and that was, I forget if it was late November, early December, and I mean, we had quite a bit in-house ready to go. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we got in that 150 range.
And I'm just curious, is that because of, I mean, where that come from, any of the subdivisions, or just individual lots?
That's primarily Woodland Cove. I mean, Woodland Cove is, and M&I Homes and Gagne Homes are the two primary builders in there, and they've done quite a bit of permit activity this year. I mean, there's obviously other areas of the city, infill lots, Hunter's Crest, other areas that have contributed to that. But I would say the large sum was the M&I and Gagne within Woodland Cove. I mean, there were some townhomes that we did this year. That adds up because they're usually 4 and 6 unit buildings. So every time they put one of those guys up, that's 4 or 6 new houses we count. So that's kind of the recap of it.
Yeah, shoot. Probably 50 over there, right?
Yeah,
well, I would say they probably, I mean, in and of itself, I mean, they probably did, around 100, I would guess, in Woodland Cove alone, I would guess.
Wow.
I would think even more.
I was just saying, just driving by and seeing the townhomes, there's.
Yeah. Oh, you were talking 50 of the townhomes in general?
Yep.
Oh, I don't recall. I mean, at least 25, 30, I think they did this year, 2020.
They go up quick.
4 and 6, yeah, it adds up real quick.
Okay, Lisa?
Can
Madam
you hear
Mayor?
me? I can't. Yeah, I
Yes,
don't know.
we
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes,
if I'm on
Madam.
mute or not. All right. I will try and be quick because it is getting late here. Back in November, we did pass our final levy. It was around 2.78%. We had about a 3.5% new home growth. So if you had an average increase to your home, you probably saw very little to no increase in your city portion of your property taxes. The other thing that we did recently is we welcomed 2 new council members on board. Kathleen Refkin, she was an alternate on our Parks Commission for a couple of years, so she has some, but very little government experience. And Ann McGregor is the second one we welcomed on board. She had no government experience. However, both of them have come to the meetings well prepared. They've been asking really good questions, and I think they will be a good addition to the council. So looking forward to working alongside of them for the next 4 years. So we've gotten off to a good start. We've been talking about our road projects primarily, or that's been one of the big topics. We are going to be doing Sunnyfield Road. Sunnyfield Road is an MSA project that stands for Municipal State Aid, and we will be getting the money for that project from the MnDOT, Minnesota Department of Transportation. And then the other roads that we are going to be doing are Minneapolis Avenue, Hardscrabble and Hardscrabble Circle, Loring Drive, Stonebridge, and Stonebridge Circle as well. So we are doing a lot of other roads. Those roads are being paid for through half of it, special assessments, and then also our road levy that we do every year. But in addition to that, we had a $944,000 one-time infusion. And what we did is we had certain expenses on one of our MSA roads that we paid for out of pocket from city funds. And so we asked for reimbursement of those funds, and now they can go back into our road fund. And so that's the reason why we're able to do all of those projects. So it's a pretty long list, a pretty aggressive, but roads are one of our big items on our priority list. The other thing that we've talked about recently at our work session is broadband, better internet and connectivity for our residents, primarily in our rural areas. They're suffering the most, so to speak. So we're looking at options. We're looking at what the city's role should be, and so on. I have spoken with a number of different individuals at the federal level as well as at the state level. The feds just passed the COVID relief bill back in December, which included $6.25 billion for broadband. And I've asked our staff to check into that to see what is coming to the state of Minnesota, when it's coming, and how it will be distributed. And the other thing that I recently read was that there is $60 million. The House has been looking at a bill passing $120 million, 60 in 22 and 60 in 23, again for broadband. And so we are going to be doing what we can to tap into some of those resources. We do have one grant on the table. We're waiting to hear back. It wouldn't be very much, but it might extend broadband to a small area in the northwest corner of Minnetrista. Those are, our water tower is still on schedule and moving forward. We hope to, we anticipate getting that finished this fall. I can say this year, finally. And the other thing that we talked about, and this kind of came around with our interviews and our appointments for the Park Commission and Planning Commission, we had a lot of applicants this time. We had 8 applicants for only 5 positions. We had an open seat on the Park Commission and 2 alternate seats available, and then we had 2 open Planning Commission seats. With that, I suggested that we take a look at both our park ordinance as well as our planning ordinance. As you know, those 2 commissions, I should say commission ordinances, commissions are established via ordinances. And I think there's some tweaks that need to be done. And also we talked briefly about possibly adding or going back to a 7-member park commission. Currently it's 5. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. We also need to look at how we're going to be treating our alternates. Do they automatically move up? Do they, and there's a lot of discussion that we're going to have regarding these 2 commissions and how they're appointed and how we move forward with that. And so that's coming up probably sometime in February, I'm guessing. One of the other things, again, just kind of circling back on the broadband, we will be touching on the broadband at every second work session in this month. So we'll at least be bringing that back for some discussion and updates and reviews. So if you are interested in that subject, that will happen at every second work session of the month. With that, I'll close. Any questions of the commissioners?
Sounds like a lot of good work was done.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I was wondering where they landed on the solar farm.
So what we did is we denied the application for the screening, and they needed approval for the screening, and then we implemented a moratorium on solar gardens in the agricultural district, and we will be reviewing the solar garden ordinance sometime this year. We have 1 year in which to do that. So when we denied the application, we also implemented the moratorium immediately, which was in October. So we have until October to come up with a new ordinance or to keep the old ordinance. I think that there's going to be some changes made to it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Yep. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming and helping us. And now we come to everybody's favorite part of the meeting when we
Peter.
adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Oh, this is Peter. I make a motion to adjourn.
There we go.
Do I have a second?
I will
second that.
Okay, who seconded? Was it
Justin.
Justin? Justin seconded. Okay, do the roll call, please.
Chair Sandholm,
Aye.
Vice Chair Vickery,
Aye.
Pettis,
Aye.
Forbrook,
Aye.
Livermore,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
and Sturgis.
Aye.
The roll call motion is passed 7-0.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being
Have a good
patient.
night. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.